Hey, people of the party. It's Ryan here from Hex and Bones Tabletop Club. Today I want to talk about hex crawling, and I just uploaded this document to DriveThru RPG. It's pay what you want, so it's free. Go grab you a copy. So as you're cruising around the internet and you're wanting to run a hex crawl, maybe you've never done it before, there are tons of great advice. There's a lot of great advice out there for creating your hex map, filling it with encounters, creating your random table encounters, and some of them even go down into thinking about the ecosystems that you're creating. And that stuff is all great. So I'm not going to retread on any of that. There's a lot of that out there that's already very good. This is going to be specifically for the actual procedure. What do you do after you've done all this work and built this awesome map? How do you move your players through it? And I had some difficulty finding an established procedure online. They'll use the old wilderness games and things like that. So I thought I would throw it all together here so that we had an established rule set that we were going to be using at the club, and then I thought I'd share it. So to get into it, essentially you're using a 24-point travel system. The party gets 24 points. It's just an arbitrary number, but 24 hours in a day, it keeps it easy for the players to grab it. But you've got 24 points, and you use 1 mile per point to travel across an easy to access terrain. So I'm also assuming that your hexes are going to be about 6 miles, so you may need to adjust these if you have smaller or larger hexes, but I think that this works pretty well for a 6-mile hex. So you get your 24 travel points, and then that hex terrain type table right there. If it's an easy hex type, the terrain is easy, whether that's grasslands, fields, plains, it doesn't take a lot of strain to move through there. That's going to cost you 6 of your 24 travel points. Moderate ones, and that would be like dense forests, maybe some hilly terrain. That's going to cost you 12 travel points. And more difficult terrain, mountains, swamplands, things like that are just going to be a rough hike. That's going to cost you your full 24. So using this system, it's relatively easy to calculate your potential travel distance, and that can be quantified, and it's easily understood by your players. The 24 number is easy to remember. You got 24 hours in a day. That's how far you can move in a day before you need to rest and get your rations, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But so a party on foot using this system can cover 4 hexes of easy terrain in one day, 2 hexes of moderate terrain, or 1 hex of difficult terrain. And quantifying what makes what is up to the judge's game master's discretion. And using the system does kind of eliminate some of the finer details that you might already have planned out in your game. And if that's the case, just use this to augment it. Sometimes you've got a hex that has a lot of stuff going on, and it'll take you longer to get through it. And I totally get that. This is all rule of thumb stuff. So the food and the rations. The players consume 1 ration for every set of 24 travel points that they use. So essentially you're using 1 ration a day. When the parties, if you're out exploring and they run out of rations, then I do have a table here for hunting and foraging. Essentially you just roll a d6. If they get a 3, then they found a ration, and increasing up. If they roll a 5, then if they roll a 5, I think they get 3 rations, 4 rations for a result of 6. You add 1 for every point above 3 you go for the rations. But when you are hunting and foraging, then you have stopped moving, so it costs travel points to do that. And I have it here as it costs 6, because you're scavenging or you're hunting or whatever it is, you're trying to get some rations for yourself. And me personally, if players run out of rations and they are unable to find anything, then there needs to be some kind of penalty. If you're going to go through all of the hubbub of keeping track of rations and things like that in an exploration game, then it's important that there's some kind of consequence for them running out of them, not properly preparing. So I have them take a -1 to all action rolls until they rest and have rations to replenish that. So it's just a temporary penalty, but it adds a little bit of juice to it. The random hex encounters, like I talked about before, I'm not going to go into making your tables and things like that. This assumes that you've already done all that work, you've done all the designing. But for this system here, Every 2 hexes, you roll another d6, and on a 5 or a 6, a random counter initiates, and then you're supposed to roll on the correct encounter table that you've designed based on the terrain of the hex that they're currently in. And that's all subject to change based on what's going on in your story or whatever. This is just a blanket procedure. Same thing with the random night encounters. Every time that they make camp, I roll a d6, and on a 6, then they get some kind of nighttime encounter. And to keep this, because every day they're going to camp and rest of some kind. So to keep this from becoming really camp rated heavy, where just every night you're getting camp rated, and that's not very fun. So I included in here that sometimes the encounter doesn't have to necessarily be bad. There could be a shooting star in the sky, or some weird lights, or a strange bird, or just something to kind of breathe a little bit of life into this and make it feel less like you're rolling dice all the time. But you absolutely should include some raid things in there, depending on your session, just to keep everybody on their toes. And occasionally I will just skip the night encounter roll entirely if the party has been very careful and they're having a night watch, somebody's staying up, so they're not getting their full rest benefits. They've already been penalized by not getting their full rest and staying up to protect the party, and you don't want to punish them for being irresponsible again. So that is essentially the gist of this. It's a 24-point system. We've got the different hex terrain types that will deplete your 24 points available in a day. I think it makes it really easy. The players, you can explain this really quickly. I mean, it's 1 page here. Explain it to the players really quickly so that they can understand, if I move this way, do I have enough rations to get back to where I'm going, that kind of thing. That's what this was made for, is a quick way to establish some rules for doing this kind of thing, because the adventuring, the wilderness part, at least in the OSR, it seems like it's coming back. I mean, I see plenty of content coming out supporting this kind of thing. But me myself, I couldn't find anything, so I came up with this. It's a very simple system. So anyways, it's for free on DriveThruRPG. If you're interested, you can go download it and give it a read through. And that's all I got for today. So I'll see you around.